He was a respected doctor, handsome, successful, but lonely. Every time he smiled at someone new, a memory pulled him back to a girl with ocean eyes, back to the beach where they played under a giant umbrella. And now, after all these years, she was back. But there was just one problem. She was about to marry someone else. Would you choose your past or let it go forever? This is the umbrella on the beach. Paul's days were long, quiet, and filled with the gentle hum of hospital machines. He was 34 now, a respected doctor in a seaside town clinic. Every morning, he walked the same path from his small apartment to the hospital. A narrow road that passed by the beach, where the sea always whispered like an old friend. To most people, Paul seemed content, calm, focused. He was kind to his patients, polite to his co-workers, and always ready to help. But inside, he carried something he never spoke about. A memory, a feeling, a name. Sophie. He hadn't seen her in more than 15 years. They had met when they were just children, around 8 or 9 years old, in a small town far from here. Her family had moved away suddenly when they were teenagers, and she was gone, like a wave that crashes and disappears into the sea. But Paul never forgot her. Not for a moment. They used to play in the park every afternoon after school. Their favorite spot was a large, colorful spinning ride shaped like a giant umbrella. It twirled slowly while children laughed, holding on tight. Sophie loved it. She used to throw her head back and close her eyes as the world spun around her. He remembered one day right before she left. It was raining softly. They had sat under a real umbrella near the beach, sharing secrets. Sophie told him she wanted to be an artist, and she asked him something he'd never forget. "Promise you won't forget me," she had whispered, and he had nodded, too emotional to speak. He never broke that promise. The hospital was busy that Monday morning. Liam was reviewing patient files when a nurse entered the room. "Dr. Bennett, we have a new case in the emergency room," she said. "A tourist. Fainted at the beach." He nodded and followed her downstairs. At the emergency room, a young woman lay on the bed, eyes closed, sand still on her legs and arms. Her hair was wet from the sea, and she looked exhausted. Paul approached quietly, putting on his gloves. But the moment he saw her face, his hand stopped moving. His heart froze. It couldn't be. "Sophie?" he whispered without thinking. Her eyes opened slowly, confused and unfocused. She blinked several times before looking at him clearly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. They talked later that evening, once she felt better and the hospital had quieted down. She sat by the window in a hospital robe, sipping warm tea. The sky outside was soft orange, a summer sunset melting into the ocean. "I came back to visit my aunt," she said, her voice calm. "I didn't know you lived here." "I didn't know you were still in this country," he replied gently. Sophie looked down at her tea. "I moved a lot. I live in the city now. I paint. Sometimes." "You did become an artist," Paul said with a smile. She smiled back, and for a moment they were teenagers again, laughing near the umbrella ride in the park. But then something shifted. A small shadow passed across Sophie's face. "I'm getting married next month," she said. The words hit him like a wave, cold and strong. "I see," he said carefully. "But seeing you today, I don't know what to think," she added, her eyes searching his face. "It's like a piece of my heart woke up." He looked at her, feeling everything at once, the past, the silence, the warmth, the loss. But he only said, "Let's take one step at a time. You're tired. Rest tonight." That night, Paul walked by the beach, the wind brushing against his skin. The moonlight shimmered on the water. He saw something ahead, a large, colorful umbrella forgotten near the lifeguard post. He stood there staring at it, and he remembered the way Sophie used to laugh, the way she made the world brighter just by being in it. He whispered into the sea breeze, "Why did you come back now?" And the waves said nothing, just kept moving, as they always had. Sophie was discharged from the hospital the next morning. Paul didn't walk her out. He was with a patient, but he left a simple note with the receptionist. "If you want to talk, or walk, or remember, I'm here. P." He didn't expect her to call, but that same afternoon she showed up, wearing a light dress, her hair loosely tied back, with an unreadable expression on her face. Paul was sitting at a seaside cafe, reviewing scans on his tablet, when he heard a voice behind him. Still the same posture, bent over, too focused. He turned slowly and smiled. "Still the same eyes," he replied. They walked along the beach almost in silence at first. The sea was calm, and the sand still held the warmth of the sun. Sophie kicked at the edge of the waves like a child. Paul watched her, realizing how time had only caressed her. She was the same, but now her features carried stories. "Did you know I'd come back one day?" she asked. "No," he replied honestly, "but I dreamed, a few times." "I did too," she said, almost like a confession. "I used to dream of the park, of the umbrella ride. I'd spin and spin. But you were never there." That hit him in a strange way. An absence in her dreams when in his she had never left. In the days that followed, they saw each other again and again, at the corner cafe, where Sophie scribbled thoughts in her notebook. At the Old Town bookstore, where Paul showed her their favorite childhood book, the same one he still kept, patched and worn. At the cliffside lookout, where the wind was so strong Sophie grabbed his hand by instinct and didn't let go. Every meeting felt casual, but was full of intention. Every glance said, "This shouldn't be happening," but every gesture said, "I'm glad it is." One cloudy afternoon, she led him to the square where they used to play as children. Now there was a new playground, modern, too colorful. But the old umbrella ride was still there, rusty, weathered, still standing. They stopped in front of it like facing a time capsule. Sophie touched the metal gently and whispered, "When I was little, I thought this place was magical." "Maybe it still is," Paul said, watching the sky that threatened rain. She looked at him, eyes welling with tears. "Paul, I don't know what I'm doing." He took a deep breath. "Me neither, but I know what I'm feeling. I'm getting married in 3 weeks, to a good man. Really. But he's never made my heart stop just by looking at me." She lowered her head. "That's selfish, isn't it?" Paul didn't answer. Instead, he walked over to the umbrella ride and sat on it, looked at her like offering shelter. She gave him a sad smile and sat beside him. That night, Sophie didn't return to her aunt's house. She sat on the park bench until dawn. So did Paul. They didn't say much. But in that silence, something deeper than words was shared. As the sun began to rise, Sophie turned to him. "If I stay here any longer, I won't be able to leave." "What if you don't have to?" he asked. She stayed quiet for a long time. "Why does everything feel so right at the wrong time?" The next day, Sophie disappeared. No word. No message. Paul checked the cafe. Nothing. The park. Nothing. He passed by her aunt's house. The aunt simply said, "She needed to think." In the following days, the weather changed. Light rain, cloudy skies, damp air. Paul threw himself into work, but his eyes always returned to his phone. Until one gray morning, coffee in hand, she appeared, soaked from the rain, trembling. "I left," she said, "but you came back." "Because I realized that we can't fight everything, but we also can't pretend this us isn't happening." "Did you make a choice?" She took a deep breath, crying. "Not yet, but I need to know. Would you be willing to fight for me if I choose you?" Paul gently held her face. "Sophie, I never stopped." In the quiet of the small town, the tension was almost tangible. After that rainy morning when Sophie had shown up, soaked and confused, she hadn't returned. This time, it wasn't an escape. It was a decision. She sent Paul a short message 2 days later. "I'll give you an answer, but not now. I need to look into his eyes first, and into mine, too." Sophie went back to the big city where she lived. The apartment she shared with Lucas, her fiancé, was spotless, cold but beautiful. Everything in it was planned, perfect, functional, just like their relationship. She entered without saying a word. Lucas was in the kitchen, slicing fruit. "You stayed longer than planned, didn't you?" he asked without looking up. Sophie just nodded. "Did you see someone?" This time she didn't reply, and the silence was a confirmation. Lucas dropped the knife in the sink. "I knew there was still someone in your past. I just didn't think it was still that strong." She tried to explain. She talked about memories, old feelings, things that seemed forgotten but had never truly died. "It's not just about him," she said. "It's about who I was when I was with him. I like that version of myself more." Lucas stood quietly, listening. Then he said a sentence that disarmed her. "You always knew you were choosing me with your head. Now you just need to decide if your heart gets a vote." Sophie cried because of his honesty, because of the pain she was causing, and because she finally realized that while Lucas was good, he wasn't the love of her life. She left the apartment that night. No yelling, no fighting, just the sound of light rain falling over the city. Meanwhile, Paul was back at the hospital. He tried to focus on work, but it wasn't easy. Each patient, every hallway, every break, he thought of her. When he got home, he found something under the door, a letter, no return name. But he recognized the handwriting instantly. "Paul, I left, but not to run away. I needed to remember who I am when I'm not with you, and now I know I'm only half. Because with you, everything has color. With you, I have a past, a present, and the desire to have a future. If you're still there, meet me at our park, at the old umbrella ride, 6 p.m. today, Sophie." Paul didn't hesitate. He grabbed his coat, forgot his phone, and ran as if time were an enemy. The sky was orange. The sun was setting behind the clouds. At the park, the old umbrella ride creaked softly in the breeze, and she was there, wearing a soft orange dress, her hair blowing in the wind, sitting in the center of the ride. Her eyes were watery, but her smile was peaceful. "You came," she said. "You called me. I ended things with him. Are you okay?" "I am now." She stood up, walked slowly toward him, stopped right in front of him. "What happens now, Paul?" He pulled something out of his pocket, a tiny umbrella-shaped keychain. I think we start again, but without forgetting who we were, and who we still can be. They hugged, tightly, like two people who had waited a lifetime for this moment. And then the rain began to fall, light, soft, like a blessing. Paul opened an umbrella, navy blue, the same as in their childhood. Sophie smiled. They stood under it together and laughed. Maybe this is the beginning of our rainy season, she said. As long as it's with you, I'll walk through any storm. 1 year later, there was another umbrella, a white one, at the beach. Their wedding was small, just close friends, ocean wind, and the sound of waves. Paul looked at Sophie and whispered, I waited all my life for you. She smiled and said, and I came back for you. Thanks for listening to Fluent Tales. Did this story inspire you? Subscribe to hear more English stories like this one. We learn best when we feel every word.